Hello, everyone, and welcome. You're listening to DTSE Talks, the place to be to learn more and explore the life in Magenta. You wonder what's going on in the company? Where do we excel and what's our lessons learned? Join me as I delve into the life in DTSE and interview employees as well as guests to answer all your questions. I'm your host, Umayma Buswab, and today we talk about mental well-being. Therefore, I invited our meditation pioneer, Gesa Hauser from Deutsche Telekom, as well as Maria Lachova, the founder of the Human Dynamics company from Slovakia, to break down the concept of mental wellness. So stick around. Our last episode focused on the importance of upskilling and securing a future, and that's what most of us tend to do in life in general. It's true that the experience and career development is vital, but life is not just about the certifications, the degrees, and so on. In order to have a balanced life, we need to develop both our know-how and our know-how to be, because as human beings, we are feeling beings, so any change impacts us psychologically and emotionally. Therefore, we should take care of our mental well-being as much as we do for our physical well-being and not neglect it. So today, we start by discussing the impact of the COVID pandemic on our view and perception of the psychological well-being, clear out the stigma around it, and explore how both companies and individuals can stay afloat during difficult situations and learn how to navigate through the changes. So without further ado, let's get started! Our guests today are Gesa Hauser. She works as a senior manager, top executive development in Deutsche Telekom, and has been active for a while now in the area of meditation and mental wellness in our group. We also have a special guest with us today. Her name is Miriam Lachova, the chief executive officer at Human Dynamic Europe in Slovakia, which is a company that offers consulting and counseling services to organizations around Europe. Ladies, welcome. I'm very happy to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. So I introduced you a little bit, but if you would like, you can say a bit more about yourself, about how you got to your positions. And we can start with you, Gesa, if you want.
Yes, I'm happy to take over. Thanks for the invite again. And I'm really looking forward to our time together in this talk. As you said, I'm working in Deutsche Telekom in top executive development. Basically, we take care of the development of the top 250 leaders in Deutsche Telekom. And one of the main strategic topics that we follow is emotional intelligence, because we strongly believe that leading in any way or form needs to have a strong capacity in emotional intelligence. Now, how did I come to that position? Because it's actually a real joy to be there.
That's good to hear.
I just love it.
Nice.
Basically, I've been in the topic of meditation, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, so forth for nearly 20 years, I would say. Just following my own development and being super curious about developing and unfolding my own potential and inner self through meditation classes. And then I did lots of different trainings just to follow on that. But it was never my profession. It just was curiosity and my own personal passion. And then for a long time, I did different positions in Deutsche Telekom, having to do with IT, with HR, different kinds of projects and positions. And it was kind of split up. I had this profession on the one side, and then I had my personal passion, which I followed in my free time. And then I took time off in 2016. So I took 15 months off just to see whether I needed to be in the position I was in, or whether there was other path in my life that I needed to follow, mainly to do with coaching, therapy, meditation, and so forth. So I traveled a lot, went to a lot of different teachers who sort of helped me on with my personal development. And in the very last months, I decided that I needed to come back to Deutsche Telekom because I didn't see that what I had to bring was in Deutsche Telekom yet. And that was when I got offered the position that I'm having now. And magically, or for me at least magically, my passion and my profession just merged. Nice. So now like everything I'm doing is my profession and my passion. And I don't know where it's going to lead, but I don't mind that so much. So right now, I'm just doing lots of work in this area, and I'm just loving it.
Super. That's like the ultimate goal, to mix your passion and your profession so that every day you wake up and you're happy to be at work. That's cool. And how about you, Miriam?
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as well. And my story is a little bit different. I actually grew up in a family of two therapists. My father was a clinical psychologist, my mother a special therapist. So I made sure that I didn't study anything close to that. As we, when we're kids, we just want to get as far away from our parents' profession as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of in us and it's close to us. And we realize it later on in life when we get more mature, I think. So my initial career was in the area of finance and entrepreneurship business, which helps me a lot. And that is still my passion today. But at the same time, and I liked how Gesa talked about her passion because I merged also two areas. One is the business entrepreneurship, and the other side is the mental health and the well-being. So when I opened my company about 4 years ago in Slovakia, there was, and I started I started to look into the field of EAP and mental health. I realized that there's a big gap in the Eastern European region. So providing EAP services or mental wellness topics was a taboo at the time. And I wanted to change the mindset of people that mental health is actually something that that is wise to talk about, to deal with. And for me, it was natural because I grew up in the family of two therapists. So I thought everyone should have a therapist to be okay. So when I realized that was not the case in this region, when I moved here 12 years ago, I wanted to change the world one person at a time. So at the moment, we're providing EAP services to companies and their employees through the company Human Dynamic Europe in Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, and moving to other countries where no such providers are existent.
Super.
And I'm really happy and passionate about the fact that the mindset of people is changing.
It's the different story than Gesa, but it's kind of the same thing that you managed to achieve at the end. So you merged your passion with your profession. That's great. I think it's only recently that really it became more and more urgent to discuss this employees' well-being because of the uncertainty, about the future, about the personal and financial safety. So our focus on mental wellness has been slowly and steadily increasing. So my question is it because of COVID? Is it something to do with the situation? What do you think?
Well, if we're talking about specifically in this region, we have seen a great increase in employers caring about the mental health of their employees. And that has been the biggest change I've seen in the last year. Just from the response of the companies. In the past, when I would talk about mental health, the companies would say, "Oh, that's nice, but it's a nice thing to have, but not really a necessity to have for our employees." So in the last year, I think employers realize that if they don't take care of people's mental health, they are going to be losing people's performance. They're going to be losing key employees, and that by helping them in this area, they're actually helping the organization. And so we have seen this shift. At the same time, I think a great increase in digitalization and innovation in this region in the last year has been positive as well. So in the past, people would think, oh, if I have a problem, if it's really, really bad, then I have to go and see a counselor. Now it was more like, okay, so I can have a counselor on the phone. It's anonymous. It's confidential. I'm not doing so well. Maybe I can give them a call. Then they may move on to an online counseling and then later on maybe face-to-face. But that has been a big change as well. in the past, before COVID, we would say 90% of counseling was face-to-face. And that switched to, I would say, 90% being online telephone.
Well, yeah, that's quite a change. And I think it also encourages people to take this service more and more and not be too discouraged or, see that it's more of a challenge than easy service. Yeah. And what about you, Gesa? I know that COVID impacted you in a way.
Yeah, I think there's several things coming together. I fully agree with Miriam and the observation about COVID. And the thing is that I think crises are usually also accelerators for new developments. So here again, I think we see a crisis that brings other stuff up, stuff that maybe we haven't looked at in that way before. So same here. It's increased the demand on support systems a lot. So people seem to be coming to an end with what they know and how they lead their life. And they are looking for different methods or different angles, different mindsets, different perspectives, different just ways of leading lives, of leading their lives. In parallel, I must say, what research shows is that it's also a zeitgeist phenomenon, a megatrend that's out there. So if you look at the research, if you look at sort of what are people dealing with, there are numerous websites and Davos forum and so forth. And there too, it is a movement towards that direction because we see that as individuals, we need this capacity and we are made to be on this planet in relationships. And relationships too function over that capability of emotional intelligence of relating to one another. And that too leads us to deal with those topics of mental health, of relating to one another in a sane and healthy way. So I think there is a couple of things coming together at this point in time, which fuels the interest and also the willingness to step into those rooms that for some are maybe unknown and maybe sometimes also a little bit scary at first, and then discovering something new about themselves.
That's true. And you mentioned that, it's important to understand yourself, right? It starts really from there. And in this situations, I guess some people also thought again about the purpose of the life and if it makes even sense to them or not. And that's a good point.
Actually, when you say the purpose in life, that's one of the key elements of psychological well-being. People think about psychological well-being as something, this subjective feeling of positive emotions and happiness. And yes, that's one part. But the other part is meaningfulness and purpose in life. And what's part of that is, and I will go back to what Gesa says about relationships, is when we think about meaningfulness or the purpose in life, one of a key element is positive relationships. Other ones would be self-acceptance, life mastery, like how we view life as in general. Can we get through life? Are we able to grow personally? And do we have autonomy? So all those are very important in our psychological well-being.
And there's a stigma about this psychological well-being, right? Sometimes some people hear psychological well-being and they think of it already as a negative topic and something that is taboo, right? How are we changing this stigma?
I actually happen to think that that's no longer a stigma.
Yeah, that is great.
That's just in my last year or so. One of the key topics of webinars that I've been doing is psychological well-being topics. So I think what helps is the media talks about mental health. Some celebrities have mentioned how they had to seek out counselor or psychologist. So people are realizing that to have a different opinion, different view, different strategy, maybe an inspiration from somebody else who is not involved directly or emotionally attached, can be very helpful and wise. And if you think about it, every successful person has at least 2 or 3 coaches or mentors that they've used along the way.
Maybe I can add something in there. I think there is 2 different strands when looking at that, first of all. The one is that there is mental illness, and I think that still sometimes has a stigma, depression or whatever it may be, just a pathology. But on the other hand, we start to understand more and more the relationship between body and mind, because for depression, we now know it's nothing wrong in the heart or mind of people. It's more that there's a neurotransmitter not working the way it's supposed to be. So we're starting to understand the physical component of what we call mental illness. That is one part. And I think that too, like with us more understanding sources and the diseases as such, the pathological terms of mental well-being, I think that will change too. And then there is the non-pathological part of well-being. Like you said, Miriam, sort of diving into yourself, understanding yourself, really taking care of your own happiness. And I do think, like you, Miriam, said, we don't wonder about soccer players having mental coaches, and it's nothing else. They use a mental coach to increase their sportive performance, and that's fine. And we can just as much take care of our mental capacities in other regions, unfolding our potential, finding out what's making us happy and following that path.
Yeah. Okay. And do you see the importance, or what do you think is the role of the leader in caring for employees?
Yeah. So in general, leaders, I think, if they're in contact with me, they might be in contact for themselves or their teams. So they sometimes come in from 2 different viewpoints. So yes, we do offer a lot of programs that have to do with mental well-being, or just reach out into that area. A lot about mindfulness, emotional intelligence, understanding emotions of yourself and others, helping others along dealing with emotions, relationship building, and so forth. So there's a lot going on. And I do think that leaders, at least the ones that I encounter mostly, they have an incredible willingness to step into their own growth, which I really respect and honor. And they also deeply care about translating that into their teams, taking the teams along, caring about those who are around them. And that can be the private context, but definitely also the context they are professionally in. So for me, I have so many people knocking at my door saying, I feel something is wrong in my team. How can we go about it? I see an individual struggling or so. I really do find that there's a lot of caretaking on all different levels in the leaders that I'm with. And I really appreciate a lot that they look at both perspectives, growing themselves and building a platform for others to grow.
I agree with you, Gesa, that it starts from self. And I've seen many leaders who are not self-aware. And that is then detrimental for the teams. And then I've seen many leaders who are self-aware and they work on their self-development. They are caring. They do show care for their teams and they're an example to others. And we need more of those.
Oh, fully agree there, Miriam. Same here. But I do think that it's become more, and it's spreading more and more. And I do think it will become part, at least in Deutsche Telekom, of Deutsche Telekom's corporate culture. And again, it's one of those things where I think it's a necessity. We see so many things, so many influences, but this is absolutely an absolute must. It's not only sort of individuals' relationships, with organizations dissolving, you need to create followership that you can only do through relationship building. And that you can only do if you're sort of close to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is sort of war. And I know it's a critical term, war for talent. Unless you're sort of an employer that also cares for the entire human being, not only sort of do you have back pains or headaches or something and then go to the gym. No, you also need to have the full being in your view, and that includes mental health and mental wellness. And that's why I think it will, maybe slowly, but it will definitely become part of our culture, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That makes me feel hopeful, because I felt that you are way past where we are. So it's good to hear that you also are having some struggles, and that it's not everyone. So yeah, it's a process. So thank you for that. That gives me hope.
Definitely. We are still on the way.
Yeah. And I think it maybe with, as you said, the COVID being the accelerator for change, it showed this aspect in a lot of leaders that didn't show it before. And that this situation of a crisis empowered this in them, or at least activated this skills in them. So there's still ways to go, but I also feel that we're getting there. Is there any other ways the employer and the organization can really make sure that the employee's mental wellness is taken care of properly?
What we've seen is just giving the opportunity to promote the EAP programs. So programs that offer counseling for employees, take time to promote it within the organization. Without that, the people will not get the information. And it's not enough to just say, oh, we have this program, go ahead and use it.
True.
It needs to be reminded. It needs to be reminded often and frequently, especially when the company is going through a lot of changes, when people are going through difficult times, like for example, when they had to suddenly work from home. That was a big change. And, in Slovakia, people live in small apartments where they are now with their partner or spouse, their kids. And it's a difficult situation. And the employer, if they expect them to be working the same way, it's not going to happen without the support. So reminding them that there are these programs available for them. Also, what we do is coaching for the managers and the leaders and some of the specialists, which is also within Deutsche Telekom subgroup, and that helps a lot, because we work directly with the first line managers and second line managers, who then can care about their employees. So remind them again that there's help. Another way to support it is through webinars. Or through some activities like what Gesa is doing, mindfulness trainings and meditation, and promoting it within the organization. Here it's available to you, not just placing on the intranet for people to find, but really actively promoting it, that there is this thing out there for you. And here are the topics. I just recently yesterday I did a topic of resilience for Deutsche Telekom subgroup. I also did psychological well-being a couple of weeks ago. So reminding people that we're all in it together. And when we're struggling, there's ways to get help.
And there's one thing I'd love to add to what Miriam so beautifully laid out. I think for some of us, it's just also strengthening their capacity to get into conversation when you feel someone's struggling. Because for some, it's really hard to step into that because they feel insecure themselves, because they are afraid what's coming up. So for us at Top Executive Development, it's also an endeavor to sort of give leaders a full palette and array of sort of being in contact with their own feelings, and also feeling free to be in contact with other one's feeling, to actually go into this conversation, to really name it and see, like, I see you're struggling. What's up? How can I help? What would help you to go along? Because sometimes I feel that this first step into actually recognizing openly that something's going on is so wonderful and helpful.
Yeah, that's interesting. And since you mentioned some of the tools to help the meditation and maybe yoga or mindfulness, so can you tell us from your experience, how did it help you, especially to cope with the stress in this period?
Yeah, for me, meditation is a place where I feel very home, very connected to myself. And for me, meditation And the pause it creates really allows me to connect very deeply to myself, because I tend to lose that at times when it's, when it's turbulent and struggling and it's high pace at work. Then that is where I can actually check in. Like, how is my body doing? Do I get enough sleep, nutrition, movement, and so forth? That might be different for other people, but that is my way of connecting with myself. But I just want to say that I guess it's different for everyone. I don't, for me, it's like, this is my way. But some people might feel that they get into this access to themselves by going for a long walk. And I just find it would be great that everyone finds their way, that it doesn't have to be, in full lotus on a meditation pillow sitting still. If that's not your way, that's great. And that's totally fine. We're all different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one way, as you said, one way of finding yourself. And there could be other tools or other paths that you can take aside of mindfulness and meditation. And also meditation can be done in different ways, right? It's not necessarily closing your eyes.
A million different ways, yes.
And I guess there are also other ways, right? To keep your, sanity, to keep your head afloat. Yeah, how do you get to this self-acceptance? What are the other ways? Maybe, Miriam, you can give us from your point of view, what would you recommend to do to get to that self-acceptance spot?
Okay, I think I'll answer in two parts. One is I want to just a little bit connect to what Gesa said. So we have to try different ways to connect, and one of the things that has worked for many people is through the mental competencies and mental resilience. And there are different things that people can do and can practice. And for example, a lot of times people have trouble with their own thoughts, negative thoughts, expectations. So changing the way to help them get through the traps that they could get themselves into, like catastrophic scenarios or black and white vision. How do I get through that? So sometimes it helps people to just have these little sentences that help them through their thought process. For example, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I'm having a catastrophic scenario. So usually it starts with, what if this and this happens? So kind of a tool could be, asking yourself the question, is it really true? Or another way is, what is the worst that could happen? And really working on the mental thought level. Or another one that people really like is, and it really helps them during this time, when, especially if they're perfectionists and they're and they have these high expectations of themselves, is this one sentence, and that is, I'm doing the best I can, and it's good enough.
I'm noting this down.
And you don't have to believe it 100%, but if you tell yourself that sentence every day, because chances are that you are doing the best you can, and it is good enough. It's just our mind gets in the way, our thoughts get in the way, and we struggle with this negative expectations or high expectations of ourselves, when we could just kind of give ourselves the pat on the back, kind of a self-hug, like, I'm doing the best I can and it's good enough. And one of the things that is connected to that, what Gesa said, is practicing gratefulness. One of the key principles I teach in any webinar that I do is the concept of gratitude. We have forgotten to be grateful for things we have. We can be so thankful for, whether we're living in peace, that we actually have work and anything else. But gratitude is something that you can learn to do every single day. It's like a muscle you build. You don't have to be, you don't have to have parents who are grateful, and you can have any kind of background. You can learn the concept of gratitude, and you can bring it within to yourself, to your family, to your work, to your team. How many times do you start a staff meeting with, what are you grateful for today? And how easy would that be to just add that to the team staff meeting, or to everyday life? What am I grateful for today when you sit around the dinner table? So
And there's another thing, Miriam, I think it's so wonderful how you're speaking about this, because the way we do it in Deutsche Telekom is very much also, like you said, mindfulness, emotional intelligence, all those capabilities, they're not up in the air somewhere. They're not sort of a spiritual world outside. So mindfulness actually doesn't mean anything else than having mind and body and a full person in the present moment. And meditation, as we use it in the trainings in Deutsche Telekom, meditation doesn't mean anything else than mental training. It doesn't have a religious or spiritual component or anything else that it can also have. Here, it just means it's a mental training. You just
I love
find
that.
out.
Can I use that next time?
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Because I've had struggle with this region when people think, oh, meditation is something from the East, and here in Slovakia or Czech Republic we are more pragmatic.
No, yeah.
Please don't bring meditation into any of our workplace.
and that's how we speak in the programs about it. We just use the term mental training, and after they experience the effect of mental training, then we say that's actually meditation, because from the word root, where it comes from its etymological background, it just means to familiarize your mind with something. It's nothing else than that. It's a mental training. You
Great.
just learn to focus or learn to whatever you want your mind to do. That's what you train. And that's why I find it so completely relevant for any context and also for the business context, because that's what we want, right? And with the with the perfectionist, we also do a little practice, and I love that too, because in our practice we give leaders a little practice where we basically say, take one breath, and on the in breath, you just say to yourself, I do my best. And on the out breath, you say, I let go of the rest.
Oh, I'm noting this one down.
Because it's such a quick, you just need to take one breath. And as you said, we are always doing the best we can of what we can do at the moment, what is available at this very moment. This is what we give.
Yeah, it helps to have some kind of mantra or kind of something to repeat to yourself to ground yourself and bring yourself back, right?
Yeah.
I love the term grounding in that sense, because in lots of trainings and seminars that I do with leaders and other people too, and you might also feel it for yourselves. Sometimes we just sort of out of our body. Our thoughts we're just not fully inside the body.
Yeah, that's how it feels like.
And it actually feels like it. Once you draw your awareness to it, you feel that you're not in your body, and people can hear it and feel it themselves. And I think that's so great to just check in and find, where are you? So I love how you brought in the concept of grounding, of really being present, fully inside the body and rooted in where you are. I love that.
Actually, the concept of grounding helps with anxiety as well.
Totally.
So focusing on what you see, 5 things you see.
Yeah.
4 things you can touch, or what can you smell, and just focusing on grounding on something. You could do it physically, you could do it mentally, and that can be quite helpful.
Super helpful.
Yeah. Now my last question to you, it's a bit personal maybe. So my last question for you is, what is a life lesson that you've been given that you cannot forget until now?
Well, I think one of the lessons that I maybe had to learn, but I'm really grateful that I learned that. Maybe some have that as a gift in their in their upbringing or so. But one of the life lessons I have is really trusting in life. And I had to learn it. I didn't trust in life. And now I have this deep trust in life that whatever happens, it's happening for something good. I might not see it immediately. I might not feel it. I might even resist it. But in the end, and that's really carrying me through a lot of things, trusting that there is something good in it, trusting in life.
Nice. That is cool to hear. And how about you, Miriam?
For me, it's been the biggest life lesson in recent times has been that tough times build character.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't embrace things that, if they're difficult or tough, that we just have to walk away. I actually feel that the best way is to step through the challenge, step through the difficulty, and come out at the end and say, I'm still standing.
Yeah.
And I may fall in between and I may overcome some hurdles, but it really builds my character. And leading with humility and vulnerability really brings great results. So for me, even COVID and tough times, I think there's many positives that we can learn from that. So, and one of the biggest lessons for me is the tough times that we go through in our lives build our character and we can be better people.
Yeah. I also feel the same because I think that life, whatever challenges life gives us, is really in order to develop ourselves, because I feel like our ultimate goal in life is to be the best version of ourselves and to be always constantly improving. And the way to win, kind of, if you want to say it, in life is to just, as you said, go straight through it, get done with it, learn the lessons that you'll need to learn from that, and then move on.
And have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
And listen to yourself, your inner voice, and find that inner strength, because a lot of times people will try to tell you who you are.
True.
Or will try to give you their own expectations or their own view of your life.
Yeah.
But the important thing is to listen to yourself, to listen to your inner voice, have the courage to step through that and follow your passion.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you will find the happiness and meaningfulness in life.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the super nice discussion today. I really enjoyed the conversation with you, ladies. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Mai.
So that's all, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in to the DTSE Talks and joining me today along with my guests. All in all, mental well-being is a topic that's getting more and more attention lately. Thanks to the difficult times we're living in, organizations finally noticed the correlation between employees' well-being and the company's success. Leaders need to keep in mind the importance of their role in creating a safe space for their teams and enabling an honest and open talk about the difficulties and stress they may encounter. We should also work on our mindset, build mental resilience, practice gratefulness, and remember that the first step to transformation is to have a better and deeper understanding of ourselves. Because the beginning of every change starts from our self-perception. Make sure to go to talks.dtse.group, subscribe to our podcast, and leave us a feedback. Finally, the communication topic is coming next month, so we will discuss the ins and outs of effective communication and how to engage employees, especially nowadays. So stay tuned!